Hey, what's up, Musers? This is John at Muse for You, here to help you build awesome websites without code. And in this video tutorial, I'm going to go over the responsive image and video slider widget that I've just added to the Muse for You shop. And it is available at museforyoushop.com. So I had a lot of fun creating this widget. It's actually using a very popular slider kind of carousel script, and it's called Owl Carousel. And they just recently came out with Owl Carousel 2, and that's kind of the newer one at the moment. So what I've done is I've turned that Owl Carousel into a widget that you can use in Adobe Muse, and it's an image and video slider. It's a responsive image and video slider, and there's just a lot of things you can do with this widget. So I've outlined the different features in this widget. You can add a fully responsive image slider, you can add a fully responsive video slider, you can add up to 12 images, you can add up to 12 videos, and you can add YouTube or Vimeo videos. You can set how many items are visible at one time, so if you just want one video or one image visible at one time, you can do that. You can set the size of the images and the videos in the slider. You can link images to internal links, external links, or anchor points. So you could actually make like this really cool menu out of the slider. You can infinitely loop the slider, and this can work in many different ways because you can infinitely loop it and you can control the slider with the mouse wheel. You could have a horizontal scrolling website that links to, or a horizontal sliding slider that links to different pages on your website. So that could make for a really fun effect on your website. You could add or remove previous and next navigation. You can add or remove dot navigation. You can navigate the slider with mouse wheel, which is what I just mentioned. You can change the color and the size of the navigation buttons. You can change the font type of the navigation buttons. You can change the speed of the slider navigation, and you can add animation to the slide transitions. So if you have, this works with having one image or video, you can add really cool animations between the slide transitions. And if you add the Animator widget with the image and video slider, the responsive image and video slider, you can choose from over 139 animations for the slide transitions. And it's just recommended that you use like the fade in or the transition in animations for the fade in and the transition out animations for the fade out, so that the animation makes sense when you're animating it. And I'll show you that in this video tutorial. And then here's a website I have. So if you wanted to crop your images to fit nicely within the slider and that they all have the same size, you can go to this website, berm.net. And here you can just drag and drop your files. Here you set the width and the height, and then it crops it to this width and height, and it centers the image. You can have it centered or however you want the image positioned when it crops. Okay, so I'll just go back to the website here, and here you can preview a few different examples. Here I have some of the widget options, and I'll cover all of these in this video tutorial. But I've actually created a website that really showcases the responsive image and video slider widget. So I have the website here in Adobe Muse, and I decided to do kind of a great outdoors theme. And there's 4 different sites here, so I'll just go to File, Preview Page, and Browser. And this is the first one. Here, if we put our mouse over the slider, we can see I'm using the mouse wheel to change the pictures here. And we can use the next button. We can use the dot navigation down here, and it looks really good. So here is the image slider. I've added the ultimate video widget as well. This is the full width ultimate video, just to add some more video to it. And here it's kind of this great outdoors theme where people are outside and just having fun. And here's some more info there. And I've used the wave menu widget here, so we have this cool wave menu down here, and I could even make the font bigger here. Okay, so that's the first example, and I'll go to my plan view, and I'm just going to call this 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so we know the different sites there, and I'll click on this one. So this one's using the image slider with 3 different images in view at first. The first one was just one image, and that's why we had kind of this animation when we were going through the slides. But if I go to File, and let me here I have 2 of the wave menus, and I'll go to File, Preview Page, and Browser. And here, if I click Next, we have 3 images in view. Okay, and we can actually make these images as large as we want, and I'll show you how to do that in the widget options. All right, we're actually going to recreate this entire website, and here's the video again, and here's more info and the wave menu down there. Okay, and then the next example is using videos, and let me just, I added the wave menu to the master page, so it kind of duplicated the wave menu there. So here I'm using YouTube videos for the video slider. So I'll go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and here I can go through the videos just like that. I'm scrolling with my mouse wheel, and if I click play, it'll play the video in this section. Alright, looks good. And I can use the next buttons and the dot navigation down here as well. And again, I have the video and more info and the menu. Okay, and then this last one, the last preview here, this is using Vimeo videos. So I'll go to File. It's using a combination of Vimeo and YouTube videos. So here I have, oh actually no, it's using all YouTube videos. I can go into Vimeo. I'll do that as I go through the tutorial, because just to save a little bit of time, but I'll start building the website and showing you exactly how to use the the responsive image and video slider. So I'll just go to File, New Site, and I'll click OK, and I'll double click here on the home page, and the first thing I'm going to do is add the widget so we can just start working with it right away. Oh, and the other thing, actually let me preview this now for you so you can see it. If I go to File, Preview Page in Browser on the video one, and I change the browser width, we can see that it's responsive. And I didn't quite show that with the other ones, but it is responsive. And this widget works with breakpoints as well. So if you're getting used to working with breakpoints in Adobe Muse, you'll find this widget very easy to use because it works with breakpoints as well. So I'll go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and if I shrink down my browser, we can see that the image gets smaller because it's responsive. If I make it bigger, the slider gets larger. Okay, and and then we saw here that this text is too big, but this is just working with the breakpoints in Adobe Muse and making sure that the font looks good on the breakpoints. Okay, so there we go. So I'll get back into getting started with the widget. So here I'm on my blank home page. So I'll go to my library panel and I'll type in responsive. Here we go. Yeah, responsive. Let's see, responsive image. I'm gonna have to look for it. If I can find it here. Here, I'll just scroll down to it. Responsive, here we go, responsive image and video slider. Okay, so I'm gonna drag in the image slider first, so I'm just gonna click, hold, and drag and place onto my Adobe Muse website. Okay, and one thing I didn't mention is if you don't see your library panel, you can just go to Window and then click on Library to bring up the library panel. I have it here on the right, so I just click on Library there on the right. Okay, so there we've added the responsive image slider, and here we immediately see we have responsive breakpoints. So here the way it works is we have breakpoint 1, breakpoint 2, breakpoint 3, and breakpoint 3 and breakpoint 4. So from 0 to 600, the number of items at the breakpoint we can set it to as many items as we want. And then from 600 to 900, how many items you'd like. From 900 to 1200, how many items. And from 1200 and up, how many items you'd like on your in the image slider. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now before I go into the other options is crop some images so that they all have the same size. If they don't have the same size, that's not a big deal either, because there is an option in this widget that resizes the images if they're different sizes. So there's a lot of things you can do with this widget. It's just really great, and I'll get into that. So for instance, I have these images here, or let's see, I have these images here. They're fairly large, so I'm just going to go to the widget page, and I'll click on berm.net, and here I'll select these images. These are Unsplash images, and I'll click, hold, and drag. Or actually, before I do that, we want to set the width and the height, and I'm actually going to leave it at 800 by 600 because I think that's a good size, and it just reduces the file size, and it reduces the file size, and it makes the images look good and all have the same width and height. So I'll just click, hold, and drag, and it crops the images, and then I'll click Save Zip. And then once you download it, it goes to the downloads folder, so you can just click, hold, and drag and place it into the folder you'd like. So I've already done this process. So here are my BERM files, and we can see here the size is greatly reduced. Here are the original sizes, like one is 5.3 megabytes, and that's huge. But in BERM, they're a lot smaller, so that's really great. So I'll just go back into my Adobe Muse website. That's how you use BERM. You can set the width and height and have your images a lot smaller and cropped to the same size. So let me just go back here, and then I'll minimize this. So here I am in the widget, and I'll click on the widget options again. And once we've set the breakpoints, I'm happy with these breakpoints. I do just want one item visible at a time. So we'll just set the number of items to 1 for each of these. And now I'll click on images, and here I can set the image size, I can select the amount of images, and here I can add the file, and I can add a link for each image. So if I click on, for image 1, I'll click on add file, I'll click on BERM here, and then I'll just add all of these 8 images that I've converted in BERM. Okay. Now I'm going to cover a lot of information probably in this video tutorial, so if you have any questions or comments, definitely feel free to ask me in the comments section. Okay. So here I've added all the images, looks good, and here for amount of images I'm going to say 8, and the image size will leave at 40%. So now to make sure that the images and the sliders at the maximum width, what we want to do is set the widget container here to 100% width. And to do that, we click on the widget, and then where it says resize, we click on stretch to browser width, so that it's 100% width within the browser. Okay, so now if I go to File, Preview Page in Browser, we have the slider there and looks good. And initially it's just fade in and fade out. Those are the default options with the animation. But if we add the Animator widget, we can choose from 139 different animations. So if I click on the widget and I click here on animation, we can see it says fade in and fade out, and the animation duration is 1000. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in the Animator widget so we can play with the animation of the slide transitions. So I'll click on Library, and I'll type in the Animator, and we have the Animator 1.3. I'll click the initial because it's the first one, or we just need to bring in the initial to have the different animations. So now that we have that, we don't need to work with the Animator, we just need to place it in our Adobe Muse website. And then I'll go to the widget options, I'll click on animation, and here for animate in, I want to make sure that I select animations that animate in for the animate in. Said that a few times. So let's say we want rotate in, and then for animations animate out, we want animations that animate out. So let me find that real quick, just an animation that animates out. So we'll do whole out. See how that looks interesting or sounds interesting. Yeah, interesting. So I'll go to File, Preview Page in Browser, I'll click Next, and we can see we have an interesting animation. With some animation combinations, there's too much going on, so it doesn't look great. And also if the animation duration is too fast or too slow, we might not have the best animation. Okay, so here I've set the animation to bounce on the left and slide out up, and we have the animation duration at 1000. So I'll go to File, Preview Page in Browser, I'll click Next, and we have this really nice animation. Okay. I like the way that looks great. All right, so you can choose from 139 animations to animate the slider when there is one item in the slider. Okay, so we've covered the images and the animation. For the navigation, you can change the font color, the font hover color, the navigation background color, the navigation hover color, the navigation border radius, so I could say like 100, and it'll make those buttons round in here. We can change the dots color, the dots hover color, and the dot size. So I'll actually do that really quick and kind of remake that first website. So I have these environmental icons here, and I'll open up the Illustrator file. So I'll open with Adobe Illustrator. Okay, so here I have some icons, so I'm just gonna copy this icon, go into Adobe Muse and paste, and now I have this little icon here. and I'm going to sample these colors from this bike. So to do that, I'll just go to my browser fill up here. I'll click on the drop down. I'll select the sample color tool and I'll sample this yellow. Then I'll click here on add swatch, this little icon here, and I'll click OK, and then I'll click the sample color tool again, and I'll click this green here, and I'll click on add swatch, and I'll click OK, and there we have the green, and then I'll make the background white again. So now if I go back into the slider and I go to navigation here, for the navigation background color, I'll change this to green, and then for the navigation hover color, I'll change this to yellow. We'll leave the border radius to 100. The dots color, I'll say green, and then the dots hover color, I'll say yellow. And then the dot size, we can make it bigger, so I'll say 20, and the dot radius, we'll say 30. We could even make it square by saying 0 in the dot radius. I like the circle, so we'll say back to 30 there. That looks good, or even 40 to make sure that it's completely round. Yep, looks great. So there we have that. We've changed the color. So now I'll click on the widget, and if I want to change the text size of these previous and next buttons, I can just go to text, and in the text option I can say like 24, and then for the text font, we'll say the Frank Heavy here, and we'll see how that looks, and looks good. So there we've customized the buttons. So if I go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and I click Next, we can see those buttons look a little bit different, and we have that really nice slider. All right, looks great. So I'll just type in the Great Outdoors up here to give some styling to the website. Call this the Great Outdoors, and we'll pick Frank Heavy again. We'll say 60. That looks good, just like that, and we'll center it. Okay, and then I'll kind of rotate it here on the side, just like that. All right, I'll change the color of the text to green, and I'll give it a yellow shadow. So I'll select the text, I'll go to Effects, I'll click on Shadow, and for the blur, I don't want too much blur, and the distance will make it a little bit shorter, like that. And then for the color, we'll select this yellow. Okay, so we have the Great Outdoors. Looks good. I'll just reposition this here, something like that. We'll bring this up a little bit. All right, looks good. All right, so there's our first example. So now what I'm going to do is just duplicate this page, and we'll just change some of the settings in the image slider. So I'll right click, duplicate page, and I'll call this 2, and then I'll double click. I'll go in here into the slider. And then let's say I wanted multiple images in the slider. I'll just change the number of items to 3 for all the breakpoints. You can have different options for these. So let's say for the breakpoints from 0 to 600, I wanted two images instead of 3. I'll just change the number of items at the breakpoint to 2 in there. So now if I go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and there I have my images, and if I shrink down the browser, we just have 2 images in there, and I'll refresh. We do have 2. We have kind of like 1.5 on each side, and that's what I didn't notice. This Great Outdoors is kind of blocking it. So if we actually hide, we create a breakpoint, I'll right click and add a breakpoint, and I'll say 480. And then here, I'll go back in here, and then I'll right click and I'll hide in other breakpoints. I'll go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and then here we have the image slider. So it is 2, it's 1, and there's a half on each side, so it looks great. And you can actually reposition this. If we go back into the responsive breakpoints, we can set the margin and the stage padding. We can also set the responsive refresh rate. So if someone is shrinking down the browser, how quickly you want the breakpoints to change the image slider. 200 is good, so I'll just leave it at 200, but you can set it to 0 and have it change quickly when someone's changing the width of the browser. Normally when someone's browsing a website, they don't go ahead and start changing the width. Maybe sometimes they do, but you can change the responsive refresh rate here as well. All right, so there we have 3 images in the slider, and I'll make the images a bit larger because there's 3 now. The images are a little bit smaller within the browser. So I'll go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and we'll make this a little bit bigger, and that looks good. Just refresh it there, click next, and there we have our image slider. Now let's say we had, we wanted to make this image slider a menu, which might be a very interesting idea, and you can have some really cool images in the slider and almost act as a menu. So let's say we have this element down here, and I'll zoom out and I'll bring it all the way down, and I'll add an anchor point like right here, and I'll call this section 1, or section, we'll just call it section 1 for now. I'll align, position it in the center, and I'll bring this up a little bit. Looks good. So I can go back to the images here, and let's say for that first image, I can go to images, and then for here, for image 1, the image 1 link, I can set the hashtag section 1, and this will link to an anchor point. And let's preview it. It's not going to work initially because you need the anchor point scrolling widget, or it works a little, it does go to that spot, but it doesn't scroll to that spot. So to change that, we're just going to add the anchor point scrolling widget. So I'll just type in anchor point scrolling. I'll click, hold, and drag. Click, hold, and drag, and place onto my Adobe Muse website. So there I have it, and for the speed, we'll leave it at 500. The easing, we'll set it to ease in cubic. That might look nice. So now if I go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and I click, we have that nice easing to that section, and we can take autoplay off because I believe autoplay is on. So let me go into additional options, and autoplay is not on. So let me preview that again. Oh, it's because I moved it with the mouse. Okay, never mind. Yeah, if you have your mouse over the slider, your mouse wheel will go through the slider here. Okay. So it could just make for really interesting navigation. If you'd like, you can also link it to an internal page. So if I wanted to link it to the home page is always .index.html. So I'll go to the images and I'll type in .index.html. And for any other pages, it would be for page 2, it would be 2.html. So it's the name of the page. It's the name of the page.html. Okay, so I'll go to File, Preview Page in Browser. There's the page, and if I click on this link, it brings us to the home page. All right. And at first I went to File, Preview Sites in Browser so that it renders all the pages. And then if I preview this page individually, all the pages are rendered. Adobe Muse has rendered all the pages, so I can preview the home page here. Okay. So there's linking the images, and you can link to an external page as well. So if I did something like images and I went to http google.com and I go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and I click, it'll take us to Google. So you can link these images to external pages. External pages, internal pages, and anchor points. If you're linking to anchor points, it's recommended to use the anchor point scrolling widget. All right, so there's that. So I'll move quickly through the other pages. So I'll just right click, duplicate page, and I'll call this page 3. I'll double click, and I'll just remove this here, the widget, and I'll add the video slider. So I'll go to Library, and let's try video slider. Perfect. There we go. And I'll click, hold, and drag, and there we have the video slider. Initially, I've added 5 videos from the Muse for You YouTube channel. So if we go to videos, they're all in here, but you can replace these with your own videos. And here we can set the video height, the video background color, and the amount of videos. So if I, again, stretch to browser width to make sure that it's the full width of the browser, just by going to resize and then stretch to browser width, there we have the video slider. All right, so if I go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and I scroll with my mouse wheel, we have that fade in, fade out animation, and I can click next and go through the dot navigation just like that. And I could add the animation to this one as well. So if I go to animation and I say fade in up and then fade out left, we can see how that animation looks. So go to File, Preview Page in Browser. I'll click next, and we have that animation there. Looks good. I could even make this transparent here, this background, so we don't see that background. So I'll go to videos and I'll set the background to transparent, and we just have the video there. So I'll go to File, Preview Page in Browser, click Next, and we have the video just like that with an animation. And I could do multiple videos, so I could say 3 videos per breakpoint. And I'll go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and there we have the videos, a video slideshow. I can click play. I can click play, or yeah, click play on this one, and it pauses the video if you go to the next video, which is a lot of fun. Okay. So there we have the video slider, and you can add Vimeo videos as well. So I have a Vimeo video here. So I'll just copy the link up here. Then I'll go into the widget options, I'll go to videos, and I'll just enter in, or in place of a YouTube, I'll enter in a Vimeo video. And then I'll go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and I'll go to the next, and here we have our Vimeo video. Okay. So as you can see, you can mix and match Vimeo and YouTube videos here in the video slider. Okay, so I know this video has gone on quite a bit. We went over the navigation, we went over the slide speed. If you did want the slide speed to be a little bit slower, you could set it to 1000, so that if I go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and I click, or I go like this with the mouse wheel, it changes speed. You can change the speed for the previous and next buttons and the dot navigation. And then for the autoplay speed, autoplay is in there twice. One is for the slide speed and one is for the autoplay speed. So if I go to additional options here, I'll go over this really quick. We have navigation buttons, we have loop items, center items, mouse drag, touch drag, pull drag, free drag, navigation rewind. So you can kind of rewind the navigation, and you can play with that and see how that goes. It just goes backwards instead of forward. It goes forward and then backwards. You can remove the dot navigation. You can remove the navigation buttons. You can remove navigation buttons. So we can autoplay. All right, let's go back into here. Additional options. We can autoplay. We can pause autoplay on hover. And every time I change this, it has to go back to the widget. We can do auto height, and this is an interesting feature. So if we did auto height, what would happen is if you had different sized images or even videos, with YouTube you probably wouldn't have different sized videos, but with auto height, if you had different sized images, the slider would actually change height with the images. So that could be something you can play with and just see how that works for you. So here we have it set to autoplay in the slide speed. We have autoplay speed at 1 second because it's in milliseconds. So 1 second equals 1000 milliseconds. And the auto slide speed, so when I change the speed of the slide with my mouse wheel, it'll change fairly quickly. So I'll go to File, Preview Page in Browser. And if we just leave the slide, so it's the other way around. So the slide speed, if we wanted it to be slower, we change the auto slide speed to 1000, and then the autoplay speed. So I'll go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and there we go. It changes just like that. Okay, and we can go to the slide speed and just change these around, the autoplay speed and the autoplay slide speed. So the slide speed is just how slowly it transitions, and the autoplay speed is how fast it goes from one slide to the other. So I'll just go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and it's fairly kind of fast, and it goes through the slides fairly quickly. If I leave my mouse over it, it stops, and if I take my mouse off, it plays. Okay, so yep, that looks good. We have the autoplay speed, and you can change the speed of that as well. And let me add the dot navigation and the navigation here again. All right, so I'll go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and then we have the navigation. All right, looks great. Perfect. Okay, and all the speeds are customizable for the different navigation, so you can have a lot of fun with that and see what works for your website. Okay, so I think I've covered all the options in this widget. I know I jumped around a little bit. In the first example, there was the ultimate video widget. I'm not going to kind of go over that. Actually, I could really quick. It's actually very simple. Just to add some more elements to this website, I'll just go to my library panel and I'll type in ultimate video, and let's just type in video and see if we can get it here. Yeah, ultimate video widget. So I'll bring in the full width video and I'll do on scroll. So I'll click, hold, and drag and place onto my Adobe Muse website. Here I'll click on add file for select MP4, and I have the MP4 here, the WebM I have it here, and the OGG I have it here, and the poster image I have it here. So a few of you have asked me about previewing. Locally it previews in Google Chrome, but once you upload it to a live server, it works on all browsers. And you do need all of these files. You need the MP4 file, the WebM, the .ogg, and the poster image for it to work correctly. And for the poster type, if it's JPEG or PNG, you just want to make sure you select the correct poster type. Okay, and here shows up the poster image, so I'll just stretch the browser width where it says resize. I'll select the drop down and click stretch to browser width. Alright, so there's the video. So now if I go to File, Preview Page, and Browser, we have the image slideshow here. If I scroll down, this video starts to play. Okay, so we can add a lot of different features to the Adobe Muse website. And if I wanted to add more icons, I could just go to Illustrator and add a few other icons here, like these trees, and do something like this over the video, just like that. And we'll do the sun as well. Okay, looks good. Kind of made them a little bit large. Okay, and the last thing that I didn't go over is the wave menu. It was in the beginning of the website, so I'll just go to my library panel. I'll type in wave menu. I'll bring in the wave menu widget 1.1. I recently changed the widget interface and allowed to make any of the colors transparent there. So there we have that. So I'll click the drop down and I'll just change the color of the menu to match the website. Link cover color, we'll say yellow. Icon color, we'll say white. Open button, we'll change the open button text color to white. The background color to the screen. Border color, we won't have a border, and we'll just say menu. And we'll have it in the top right, just like so. And then for the close button, we'll just change it to green, just like that. Okay, so there's the wave menu, and then I'll change the font to the Frank Heavy, and we'll change the text size to, let's say, 18. All right, so now I'll go to File, Preview Page, and Browser, and I'll click on Menu, and there we have the wave menu. Perfect, and I could even bring the font smoother in. So I'll type in font smoother, smoother, and I'll bring the font smoother light, just like that. And I'll add some, for the menu, for the open button, I'll add a border radius of 100, so it's fully rounded. Okay, so I'll go to File, Preview Page, and Browser, and there's the menu button, and there's our wave menu. So we have this video slider, and we have this video here, and this was just for the anchor point. All right, and the anchor points and the linking to pages is for the images, because if you click on play, it'll play the video. Okay, so I know this video went fairly long. I do try to keep my videos a little bit shorter, but there was a lot of information to cover in this tutorial. I know there's a lot of options with the responsive image and video slider, so just let me know if you have any questions and I'll be happy to answer them. But I do feel like this widget could add a lot to your Adobe Muse website. And you could even add PNG images or SVG images to the image slider and just have really interesting images appear in the slider. So yeah, just if you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comment section below. To access this widget, you simply go to museforyoushop.com, and then here you can click on the pop-up, and here you can click subscribe to get access to all widgets and any new widgets I come out with for $39 a year. Or if you'd like to use PayPal, you can click here to use PayPal. If you'd like to purchase the widget individually, you can click here on the image and video slider, and then here you can click add to cart to purchase individually, or again you can get access to all widgets and any new widgets I come out with for $39 a year. So again, I do this to help you build awesome websites without code. If you like this video tutorial, you can subscribe below. Also in the show more section below are links to other resources and links to museforyoushop.com. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video tutorial. Thank you.